Well, hello and welcome to another movie review from MBE. Today we are going to be talking about 1990's Back to the Future Part 3, John.
Yes.
This was obviously directed by Robert Zemeckis, and Bob Gale put his pen to paper once more for the final time. Now, just before I hand it over to you to guide us through this review experience, John, my experience of this film, the first time I saw this was in theatres. I did mention when we did the Part 2 review that we got that out in VHS on the Saturday night. By the Sunday,
Yes.
my brother, my mum and my dad all went to the ABC Cinema in Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow in 1990, all the way back then, 30 years ago.
It's crazy,
Who
isn't
would have
it?
thunk? But listen, what an experience. And we'll talk about this over the next, I want to say half hour, but
Probably 45 minutes, Stephen.
yeah, we'll see how it
At
goes.
best.
But listen,
Maybe an hour.
a lot of talk about this film being possibly the weakest of the trilogy. In comparison to the other two films, I can understand where people are coming from, but for me, there's something really wholesome about this third chapter.
Yeah.
Something conclusive as well. You know, you're not left hanging. You feel fulfilled, but I'm sure we'll get into all that anyway.
Yeah, Stephen, look, I can't recall the first time I seen this movie. I would have been a very young child indeed. But I've seen it many, many times since, and most recently I've seen it today because I wanted to see it again and refresh the noggin or the brain for non-Scottish people on just how good a movie this is from the two Bobs. Stephen, I've always says it's the weakest of the three movies, and it is, but as you did say, that doesn't really mean it's shit. Well,
No.
You didn't say that, I'm saying it. It's still a very good movie.
Yeah.
It's still fantastic. This, for me, is the best trilogy outside of Star Wars ever put to
The original
film.
trilogy, yeah.
The original trilogy, of course. Stephen, I said Star Wars, come on. We're not talking about prequel trilogy. That's just a kid on Star Wars. And that sequel trilogy is fan fiction. That doesn't even exist now in my brain. I just shut that out. It ended on Endor, or the moon planet of Endor. But Stephen, I think this is the greatest trilogy ever put to the screen, to paper, from Bob Gale. And you can't have a trilogy without a fitting conclusion, and this is of course the fitting conclusion. And where they take it is really unique, as you did say. There's just something about it, that the wholesomeness of it, the actual setting in the western sphere, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
it differentiates it from those first two movies, and that's why I've really enjoyed it
There's
so much.
There is another element to this that you've got to consider as well, that you're left on a cliffhanger in part 2.
Yes.
You know, this was the reason that we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait another day to see what happened. You know, after Doc
Timed it
collapsed.
very well.
You know, just out, just next to the clock tower. But we just couldn't wait to see it. We knew where we were going because it gave you that little sort of trailer at the end of the film, which is not a thing that a lot of studios do. They don't normally give you a this is what's to come. You know, I can't think of another film that does that. You know, they give you that little, I think it's about a minute and a half.
It's a TV show.
Yeah.
What's coming next?
Up, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that, Stephen. I actually didn't know they gave a little trailer.
Yeah.
Were these shot fairly close together, these
Back
two
to
movies?
back, yeah.
Were they back to back? Well, that explains, because I was watching it. I actually wasn't aware they were shot back to back. They were pioneering then, even back then.
I'm going to tell you something, John, and you'll probably laugh at this. Robert Zemeckis said in the making of Part 3, I think it was the DVDs that came out in 2002, he said that the second part, it suffered.
Yeah.
In his opinion, it suffered because of he had to turn his attention to Part 3 for obviously scheduling. I couldn't see that.
No,
Could not see
didn't
that.
see any signs of suffering at all, Steve.
No.
That second one's, as I says when we reviewed it, probably my favourite of the three, although they're all so strong and different in their own ways, but that is certainly my favourite. So don't quite agree with Zemeckis there, but who am I to disagree with the man that gave us this fantastic franchise? Stephen, look, the opening 15 minutes of this movie, I've says, also we return to 55, as you did say, we get some closure on that cliffhanger from the second movie. Doc and Marty interacting after he's already sent him back to 1985. He's like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Somehow, we spoke about it, Marty carries Doc into his mansion thereafter. Doc, Christopher Lloyd is about 6'2". Michael J. Fox is only 5'4".
Yeah.
I do not know for the life of me how that, also it's a stunt double, it has to be, or a mannequin, lightweight mannequin.
John,
That's like Beauty,
Yeah.
putting the Beast back on the horse in Beauty and the Beast. It's unexplainable. That should be an X-File.
It's things you think about though as a fan, don't you? You know, was Copernicus that strong? I don't know.
Well, Copernicus probably gave a helping hand.
Yeah.
Stephen, that's another thing we'll get into later on. There's a little bit at the end of this movie that really does... It grinds on me. He goes back for one dog and leaves another in the timeline on its own. Well, not on its lonesome.
No, he's
to be fair, if he takes that dog, then he's leaving his younger self without a dog. So I take it back. I'll speak about it now. I'm talking shite. Ignore me, guys. But look, Stephen.
That's a paradox.
Yeah, it's a paradox. And we know how Doc feels about paradoxes unless he's smooching on some beautiful woman from the Western times. But Stephen, Clara, yes, of course. Well, he doesn't know that at that point.
No.
Well, he did, because he get forewarning from, obviously, Marty, or Clint, as we'll get into. Stephen, this could be the best opening 15 minutes from a movie that I've probably seen. It's just beautiful, the way that they handle the exposition of what's going to happen for this movie, what's happening with the characters via the note in, obviously, Emmett Brown's mansion, and then, obviously, via the gravestone as well, what's befell Emmett Brown, and what he has to do, getting back in time to in 1885 to save him. It's just beautiful the way that they lay it in. It flows seamlessly. It allows the movie to just go right away.
It's the detail in the film as well, John. The opening 15 minutes, you've got the little car in the bin that was in fire from the first one. You've got the clock hanging above the toilet seat, which was obviously the reference to how he came up with the flux capacitor. Little details like that, you know. It just shows the care and attention from the filmmaker.
Makes it so good.
Also, Marty having to prove again, he's back to being Future Boy in 1955 Doc's eyes. He's got to prove if the me of the future is now in the past. How do you know where I am? And he sent a letter. The letter gets sodden, didn't it, with that rain.
And it was like miracle it was still intact, Stephen. There's another line, incidentally, in the first shot of this movie, which I was so impressed with from Michael J. Fox, because it's a tongue twister and a half. Yeah, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back from the future. It's like, wow, that's a lot of backs and futures in there. Well done, Michael.
Yeah.
But we know he's a fantastic actor anyway, Stephen. The man's proven that over his career. But also they just handle it. I just thought it was beautiful the way that they set this movie up, the story up, the arc, at pace. There was no hanging around in 55. They'd done that in the past two movies. They wanted to get right into this western setting, do something distinctly different with the characters, with the story. Didn't hang around. And I really liked that jump to 88 miles per hour going back into the past. It was just beautiful the way that it blended from the Indians on the painting to actual Indians coming at him. He thinks he's been attacked.
He wasn't thinking fourth dimensionally, as Doc would say. Those Indians won't be there. Well, they were actually.
They were. That's just sod's laws, isn't it, Stephen? And we see that again. There's little things that happen in this movie.
That reference as well, referring to them as Indians. You don't really hear that now. It's obviously Native Americans. The terminology's obviously changed over the last.
It's certainly not allowed to say redskin. Because of course you had the Washington Redskins over in the US, the American football team, and they were getting into a lot of bother. They were being asked to change their name and whatnot. They've not done it, but there's some things you can't get away with, which you could have 30 years ago. And we'll be speaking about that tomorrow as well with Lock Stock. There's some terminology in that movie that you would not get away with. That was only 20 odd years ago. Jesus Christ, times have changed, Stephen. But also they get back to what I've actually pondered here first and foremost, before we get back to the actual Western. Do you think that this movie, Stephen, is viewed as the weakest in the trilogy because it's set in a Western, a sort of light-hearted Western style?
No.
Do you think that's why it's viewed? Because it's slightly disconnected in a way from the two movies prior to it?
This is what I love about the film, John. It's contrast from the technological heavy part 2 to organic, in the country, they can't even get fuel. Do you know what I mean? That's there's always a problem in these films, whether it be lightning strike, not enough plutonium. This time it's the fuel. But no, I like it, John. I think they had to take it off in a different direction. I actually think of it as back to basics for these two characters, and obviously the sort of situation they find themselves in. And it's great. I think directors of Robert Zemeckis' age, I think it was probably their dream to make their own Western at some point. So in a way, he's probably fulfilled a fantasy. So,
and Stephen, obviously Westerns were actually in a sort of renaissance in that early 90s. We had the likes of Tombstone and God, what was that? Clint Eastwood one? The Unforgiven. So we had a lot of really good Westerns popping up, and this was a really light-hearted, great little Western in comparison to them that I really enjoyed. Stephen, I agree with you. I don't think this is for me, it's not why I view it as the weakest in the trilogy. I view it as the weakest in the trilogy just because it is.
Because it's the end.
Factual. It's the weakest in the trilogy. It just is. The other two movies are better. It's nothing to do with the Western setting, but I could imagine there is some people out there who wanted more futuristic stuff, wanted perhaps getting back into a more, I don't know, connectable, if that's even a word, time and history, not getting all the way back to Western setting. I can imagine there'd be people out there that would view it in that slant. I disagree with them though. Stephen Ross, it does travel back to 85 though, and there's just, again, slick action. 1888.
Yeah, no, 1885.
1885, yeah, I'm thinking.
88 miles per hour.
Yeah, 88 miles per hour, yes. And then he meets the Indians. It's really slick, the actual driving of the DeLorean. He's not driving that vehicle, not a chance, man. Just the shot of it going down that slope, and then it's spinning and reversing into the cave. It's fantastic. He's like, shit, Indians.
You know that scene, John, I was just thinking the suspension on that's buggered. Yes. It was bouncing all over the place, wasn't
People
it?
give the DeLorean shit, Stephen, but I have to tell you, it looked the best it probably ever had done in any of the trilogy.
And
in
those
this
50s
movie.
wheels, yeah.
Those 50s wheels, yes, on the rail. But even prior to that, just I think it was the sort of juxtaposition of it in the desert with the Indians. It just looked gleaming. It looked amazing.
Raised a bit as well. From
suspension looked springy.
Yeah,
it looked magnificent. Stephen, I'd love a DeLorean. I'm not shitting on them. I love my 80s cars. I'm a sucker for history. But also he reverses into the cave. He's took an arrow to the car at this point. He doesn't realise how significant that's going to be for him in this movie. He gets the cavalry chasing after the Indians as well, and then he gets attacked with a bear, and he bangs his head falling off a cliff. Things are never easy for Marty in these movies.
John. I actually love that shot of him, try to keep his balance going down that hill. Gravity gets the better of him. It's the way he crashes through the fence. It's hilarious.
He's a very agile young guy in this.
First time we get to see the Vista Glide once more. Obviously with Seamus.
Seamus,
Michael J. Fox playing the Irish version of his ancestors.
I can understand that being his ancestors even, but it did disturb me slightly that the mother, the grandmother was
his mother.
Yeah. Makes no sense.
It does not.
She's not part of the McFly.
There's another bit, we'll talk about Leah Thompson. We might as well do it now.
Yeah.
She's had to really take a sidestep in this film, which is a shame. I thought she was terrific in the first movie. She had a part to play in the second one, in that middle part in the alternate 1985. When she was a bit big, as Marty called her. But there was something. There was something. She had to suffer. Her character had to suffer because of the Clara character, just to give her more room and more focus, because obviously where the story was going. But it was just a shame. She was hardly in the film. When you think about it, I think she was in the homestead, and then I think
4 or 5 scenes, very short.
Yeah.
It was more about Seamus, really, because as it should be, because he is the it shouldn't. But
John, I think if things panned themselves out, Crispin Glover would have been Seamus in this film.
Yeah,
but it would have been even more weirder because. There's some version of George and Lorraine back in the past married, and I don't know, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's just because of
Leah Thompson. Totally different actors. Totally different actors would have worked. It's Leah Thompson. I thought I'd made an ass of that there. She shouldn't be. She should not be Maggie McFly. It's wrong. It's completely wrong. But that's the the top of the iceberg in terms of wrongness in this trilogy. It could have been worse. It could have been Elizabeth Shue. Jennifer,
Yes, that would have been wrong, Steve. That would have been very, very wrong. But what did you make about the actual setting? I mean, I think I've done this to the death, really, but we'll do it. I'll jump ahead with the set costume and production design. We'll not leave that to the end. We'll get that out of the way.
I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I always feel I don't know, but there's something about the set, the Back to the Future Square, I was obsessed with. Just really studying the sort of layout of it, where the shops are, where the cafe is, where the gas station is, and where and then in the second one, where's the cinema, where is that, where's that Jaws 3D thing coming out, and you kind of work it out in your head, the sort of geography of the layout. And it's not any different in this film, where the clock tower is being built, and where the saloon is actually on the grounds of the cafe. It's just that detail. It just works. It's fantastic, There's just something
sort of social area in the square.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's the meeting point. And it's kind of like the way that Marty goes into the cafe, and then the chase. It's very similar in this one, but this time, obviously, Buford. We're introduced to Buford in the saloon as well with his cronies.
Stephen, the quotes from this guy.
Some great lines in there.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas F. Wilson's just fantastic in this trilogy as a whole, but Mad Dog could be my favourite. Just the fact that he's calling him I think he keeps calling him Runt in the actual throughout the movie, but he says something. I'm trying to find the quote. Basically, says "I duded up." He keeps using the word "dude," which is very strange to me, especially not some duded up egg sucking gutter trash. Now, I don't think you could get any other character in this trilogy to utter a line like that other than some form of biff. It's just the fact he goes in and shouts McFly. It's like, Jesus Christ. The McFlys cannot escape the Tannins in this timeline. They are just haunted by these guys.
Repeats itself, yeah.
And obviously, wait a minute, you're not Seamus, but you look like him. I can't recall the exact.
Especially that dog awful hat, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously his gang of his cronies slagging off McFly's or Clint's shoes. What the hell are those?
Nikkei's, yeah.
Was it moccasins? I think they called them or something. Nikkei's, yes. So again, you're right, Steve. We're getting history repeating itself, but it pans out slightly different for Marty this time. He's just in the back foot from the get-go. You did say it before we came on. Buford's on a horse. The rest of his gang are on horses. They're outlaws. They're just on him like a rash. They've lassoed him and they're dragging him along the ground. He ain't got a hover. Well, he has got a hoverboard, but it's not there. He's trying to remain innocuous, but he has that McFly look, and the Tannins don't like McFlys. They can sniff them out.
I think it all triggered from calling him Mad Dog, wasn't it? He doesn't like being called that. You know, but I think it was too late by then.
Yes.
But there's that Michael Jackson dance as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
You know, and then the sort of spin, and then it's like a seesaw with the spittoon. It's great though. It's fantastic.
Yeah, because you see the guy spitting as he walks in. That's a great scene as well. When he actually walks into the saloon, that just reeks of Western. Yeah. They're all looking. It's quiet. He's just dressed in this outlandish pinkish outfit.
Well, be stranger.
Yes. Love that bartender in this movie, by the way. He's fantastic. His interactions with Emmett and later on in the movie are brilliant. Shows you that he's been there for a while and he's developed this sort of.
I'm pretty sure, John, this actor is probably he's been in a few westerns. I can guarantee it.
He reeks of it.
Yeah.
Stephen, you gave me an interesting fact. Obviously, when they string up, I think he says there's this new courtroom. This courtroom's just been built. It's time to hang someone.
That's right. Yeah.
Buford, I think it is.
Yep.
You told me that he actually passed out. I know you actually have got Michael J. Fox's book, I think his autobiography.
Yeah, Lucky Man, yeah.
Yeah, that he passed out during this scene when he was strung up and hung. I actually didn't realise he lost consciousness.
Yeah, I remember during the production, John, I was 14 and I remember reading it in one of the papers, the entertainment section.
You tell me about it, I don't recall it.
You know, he passed out. You know, obviously the hanging part was pretty real. You know,
it's crazy.
I think it was just a botched job. He's never said anything about it in regards to that's what he blames. Obviously, his condition that obviously developed a few years after this. You know, the Parkinson's.
It's very young to get it though.
Yeah, you know, and he's always been quite honourable. You know, in the situation as well. He's never pointed the finger or blamed anyone. You know, you've got to give the man enormous credit for that. You know, a lot of people would be very bitter. Reading his book though, John, he's very he's inspiring. He really is, you know, and he's always put humour into the situation as well. I think it's probably the best way that he wants to deal with it. We're not here to talk about that, obviously. You know, we don't want to put it down on the review or anything.
No, but Steve, you've seen it with guys like Billy Connolly as well. Yeah. There's that initial sort of devastation, and then these guys there's something about these sort of entertainment figures. Yeah. They realise how lucky they've got it in life with money and whatnot. They don't want to seem too downtrodden because there's people who have got nothing having to deal with it. So there's something develops, clicks, and he
set up the foundation as well, John. So you know he's a good guy, Michael J. Fox. I've always liked him. You know, out with obviously Marty McFly, which is probably one of the coolest characters you ever meet. You know, and his stuff in Family Ties and all the other 80s films and stuff like that. Out with that, you know, he just comes across as a really sound guy, you know. Yeah. Somebody you'd get on with, you know, just for being a down to earth guy, you know.
Absolutely, Stephen. Of course, Teen Wolf. You can't forget Teen Wolf. I don't know if you mentioned that.
No,
look, Stephen, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I've seen some absolute shysters, but that is not.
That's what it is, isn't it?
That bad a movie. Yeah. It's aged okay.
Some of them have.
Yeah, is it the guy from American Pie, the dad who plays his dad in it? Am I right in saying that? I may be completely wrong.
No. He's a salesman on Vacation. Hugh Levy. Yeah,
Hugh Levy. Yeah, we'll leave that tangent aside and just step right into
Eugene Levy. Sorry,
Eugene Levy.
Yeah.
Probably. Did you say Hugh, Stephen?
Yeah.
It's probably because of Huey Lewis. Huey Lewis. Doesn't matter.
No,
Stephen,
he's not in this one.
Yeah, he's not in it. But the actual Lewis, I think we get that song at the end, don't we? With what's his face? Needles plays the slip it in.
Love,
Sneaky shits.
Yeah.
But Stephen, obviously, when he's strung up, we do get the introduction of Emmett Brown in 1885, and he is clutching a truly magnificent rifle. It looks like a steampunk homemade effort. And he says an absolutely fantastic quote. He shoots, obviously, Marty down.
I know what line you're going to say, John.
Yeah.
This is daft, this line.
Yeah, I'll shoot the fleas off a dog's back at 500 yards. No, tannin that's aimed right at your head. What was one you were thinking about, Steve?
I was thinking the one who dressed you in that ridiculous costume. You did. He would know that because it's his younger self that did it.
I know, it's
Doc,
ridiculous.
come on, you're intelligent.
He's 70 odd, Stephen. He maybe having some memory slip at this stage.
To be fair, it was 30 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was. And also, he's been through a lot, having to adjust to life in Western times. So we'll give him a bye for that one. But Stephen, what was your thoughts on the gun? What was your thoughts on seeing that for the first time when good old Emmett Brown steps in? You know right away, you see the trench coat. He's
like Clint Eastwood coming into the Western, isn't he? Just the way he comes in. I like the way it's shot as well. I think it comes in with his right boot.
Yeah.
It's a very sort of grounded shot, isn't it? And it's clear who it is. You know, that long silver hair. Can't be
is that a wig?
I'm not really sure. I'm not actually entirely sure, John.
I think it was.
But probably because he did the Dream Team, which came out the year before. And
we need to do that film, Steve.
He didn't. Oh, we'll have to.
I love that movie. Yeah. It's one of my all-time favourites.
Yeah, there we go. We're going to be doing that soon.
That has to happen.
Michael Keaton,
fantastic.
It was a good introduction to the character. You know, it's funny because we already were introduced to him at the start of the film, but it was a different version of him, a younger version. It's just good to see the two back together again. They, give each other a wee hug.
Yeah, he looks angry, and then he's like, the facade slips. She's like, "It's just great to see you back."
Aye.
Yeah, Stephen, and then obviously we hatch up a plan that he explains everything that's happened. Well, he should be aware, as you did say, he did send him there, but also they go and check out the DeLorean and whatnot. They realise,
why does he not know this? Because it's 1955.
He's already said him.
Version knows about the tombstone. He knows about Clara. He knows about all that, and this he's still acting shocked.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Yeah,
is there not a ripple effect? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, but Steve, we're not getting into time continuity issues and whatnot. We've done that with Terminator and stuff. You need a chart for this. And as you did say, I think the guys in Big Bang Theory came up with some theory and charted it and whatnot. I'll leave that for intelligent people. I'm not even remotely intelligent enough to do that sort of shenanigans. But obviously they go and check out the DeLorean. At this point he realises the fuel's been ruptured. I think he realises it prior to it, but he explains to Doc, he's like, "It's okay, we'll get some gas." And Doc's like, no, the actual, what is the...
Yeah, the Mr. Fusion. I think Marty thought that it's okay, we'll just, that's... The time machine never ran on Mr. Fusion. Mr. Fusion was a replacement for
the flux capacitor
for the plutonium side of it. It always ran on gasoline, according to Doc anyway.
And of course he says we're not going to get a gas station for over 100 years.
He says in the first one, when he's putting the banana skins into Mr. Fusion,
we don't need fuel anymore.
We need fuel. Doesn't make any sense, Doc, come on.
Stephen again, he's 70 odds. We'll let him away with it.
I need fuel. It clearly says that.
Continuity issues are starting to build up though, and I'm starting to reassess my claim for this trilogy being one of the best ever. But obviously, Stephen, we get them going out and trialing horses and whatnot. Doc's just not grasping that he's going to be dead in a couple of days. Marty's trying to explain to him, he's saying, "Oh, shove it down a hill. We'll wait till it ices over, we'll wait till winter." And Marty's becoming really incandescent at this moment. He's like, "Doc, you're dying in 3 days, we really have to speed things up a little bit here." And then he says, "Well, I've got another idea." And I think the train's horn or whatever goes off, and you realise that's it dropping. We can use trains or a train.
I like as well that he denies he knows anyone called Clara, and Marty kind of teases him. I reckon it might have been an old girlfriend, and you can see the sort of uncomfortable level of Doc at this point, because he's such a scientific guy. Everything's science, he doesn't really drop that sort of guard down at any point until this film. It's one of the things that I always love about this film is obviously, you mentioned it, I don't know if it was maybe part 1 or part 2, John, but you mentioned, the first one was about George, second one was all about Biff, this one's all about Doc. And and
Marty's the enabler. He's the audience's eye into the story. And Stephen, that's why what he says about obviously Leah Thompson in this, why it was necessary for her to be thrust to the side for Clara, because the movie's never really about Marty and his family. Indirectly it is. He's gone through and traversing time and whatnot, and it's the family unit he's trying to save and stuff like that. Not in this movie though, but he's just the enabler. So that's why, because it is Doc's story, it's necessary to bring Clara in place of Leah Thompson. Leah Tam, yes, that's the character's name or the actor's name from now on. So that's why it was necessary, Stephen. But obviously, Clara gets introduced at some point in this great sequence where they're trial and error and whatnot, trying to find a way to power the DeLorean to 88 miles per hour so they can get back to 55 and try and get, well, not get 85, yeah, so they can get Einstein and everything can come back to hunky-dory. And I think Clara's introduced at this point. She's in a bit of a sticky pickle. She's about to go off the ravine, and obviously the ravine is called the Clayton Ravine.
It was Shonash Ravine, and then when the school teacher went over the ravine, it became Clayton Ravine. But obviously that changes again.
Yes, to the Eastwood Ravine, which I didn't know. I missed it, even though I've seen this movie so many times. See, I really like that sort of eureka moment where he saved her, they go away. He's absolutely love-struck at this point. Incidentally, he's teased, as you did say. Marty's saying, look, you never know, it may be love at first sight. That was what it was like with me and Jennifer. He's like, no. And then he sees her and that's it. He's like a love-struck puppy dog. Just that eureka moment though, when they're coming back, and he's like, Jesus Christ, there was a school teacher went down there, we used to go on about it all the time.
Happened about 100 years ago. 100 years ago, that's this year.
He's like, I hate this time travel. We really have to destroy this DeLorean once this is all done.
Well,
and then it happens.
That a few times, and I think that's sort of planting the seeds for the audience to prepare themselves for what's going to happen later on in the film, because he does mention it in Back to the Future 2, that he's going to dismantle this infernal machine. And then he mentions it, again, because he sees what time travel can do. So,
Stephen, what did you make about the model? I have to get that in. He makes another model.
The railroad track.
The railroad track.
Fantastic.
What a mind this guy has. He can conjure that up in a day or two. Fantastic, Emmett. What a guy. I wish I knew Emmett Brown.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, it's just his way of explaining. It's an audience thing again, isn't it? It's to tell the audience this is what's going to happen, later on in the film. Up to DeLorean, switch the tracks, and it's great. This was what this trilogy does throughout it. Throughout those 3 films, it repeats key scenes, the chase scenes, the Marty waking up in the McFly homestead this time, rather than the hotel or in Lorraine's bedroom.
That was in a western.
So, and then once again it repeats itself with this little sort of model sort of explanation.
Stephen, I liked the bit with the bridge as well prior to that, where he's looking out onto the unfinished bridge and Marty's like, no, this ain't going to work. He's like, no, Marty, you're not, I think you says it, not thinking 4D. Once you go through and hit 88 miles per hour, there will be a bridge here and it'll just continue along the tracks. Just great little sort of visualisation of what's going to happen. Again, difference between these characters. One's older, wiser, other one's young, sort of immature, inexperienced. And you see it, we see it swapping at some point in this movie. And we will get into that, Stephen, probably now, actually, in conjunction, Stephen, as well, with maybe a discussion about the score and just the love interest in that side plot for Emmett and obviously Clara. We'll probably get into this, the romantic side plot first, though. I mean, I've said here, this is probably the best thing in the movie for me. Just the fact that Emmett is the sort of loneliest character in the franchise. We spoke about it before. He's hanging around with a young guy. He's getting no one. He's getting no one in life. And finally, something's produced for this guy. As we did say earlier there, this is his movie. In a sense, something's produced for him. I really enjoyed that part of this movie, watching it again. I've enjoyed it before to a lesser extent, but watching it again, slightly older, I've enjoyed it more. They've thrown a bone to Emmett. He's a great character.
They've got to, John, because it's the last film. And you don't want to leave him alone. You can't do that. You can't do that to this lovable character. Science was his life, but he's fulfilled his sort of scientific projects, the big one being obviously the time machine, which was a sort of 30-year plan.
And the can opener.
Yeah, another failed stuff, but that mind reading thing.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But yeah, I mean, it's time for him to settle down. At the grand old age of 60 something, whatever he is. Marty's got his whole life in front of him. So this is Doc's time. It's one last chance of happiness for him. Some concluding storyline for him, something that is a fairy tale storyline for him. You see that at the end as well.
See it in the middle, Stephen, when they're talking at night just outside the town.
That's a great scene.
And as a shooting star goes by, the music, the score, everything about that scene was just brilliant. It was a wide shot. It was lovely, fantastic.
Talking about Jules Verne, that's right. Yeah.
Of course, we get it on the nose at the end where the actual children are named Jules and Verne.
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ, you not think outside the box with that one, Bob? Come on, man. Great writer like you, and you can't come up with a better name than that. You can name a dog Copernicus and Einstein, but you can't come up with better names for his children. Jesus Christ, man.
On the nose. Albert,
yes, Albert, yes. But Stephen, obviously the score as well. I've says here, this could be my favourite Silvestri score of the three in the Back to the Future trilogy. It's western heavy in points. There's some quiet, as I did say with that scene with the shooting star going over, quiet, brilliant little pieces involving Clara and Emmett. I just love the score in this movie. I love the score in all of these movies. There's something about this guy Silvestri. He just knows what he's doing. He's one of the great composers. But just the little...
Okay, Endgame, John.
Endgame, yeah, exactly, Stephen. They made that whole sequence. Just pops. When I think about it, I think about the music first and foremost. That speaks volumes about what the guy brings to movies with his great mind and his music. But just the little sort of brass-heavy scenes as well with the score, where you have a shot to the DeLorean on the tracks just as they're about to go through the plan and try and get back to 85. You hear that dun, dun, dun. It
does that when Marty enters Hill Valley as well, doesn't it? Yeah,
it's really good.
The opening score as well. You can't forget when they're going back to the mansion in 55. It's a lot of people have said this, how similar it sounds to the theme the main theme to Forrest Gump. But obviously Silvestri once again did that film, which was obviously a Robert Zemeckis film, So there's something to be said about composers, and a lot of their stuff sounds very samey, but not in a bad way. John Williams stuff, because it's just got
Thomas Newman as well.
It's got his hands all over it, as they say, his trademark. And it's the same with Alan Silvestri. You just know it's very similar. I get where people were coming from. If you listen to them back to back, you go, they're very, very similar. But it's a great score. But you're right, John. I think there's more variation as well in this part. There's you've got the romantic sort of scores, you've got the sort of adventure scores, and you've also got the sort of melancholy score as well in there. I think perhaps he was given a bit more sort of freedom with this concluding part as well. I think as well because of the theme, it gave him something else to work with, that sort of time period where it meant going back and maybe using more organic instruments and stuff like that, nothing too sort of synthesised or anything like that,
See, I think that's this movie in a microcosm, really. That, what you says there, freedom. I think it just freshened up the trilogy. We went back and done 55, 85, a dystopian 85, futuristic sort of 2015.
Yeah.
This just freshened it up, given this new concept, getting away and doing the Western, freshened it up and gave something new for Silvestri to do, and for the directors and the writers and the characters. You're
absolutely right, John. And when you look back at part 2 and part 3, part 2 was all over the place. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't mean the storyline was all over the place and it was confusing. It's just the situation they found themselves in, where they were jumping back and forth quite a bit. I don't think there was a moment in the film they actually settled down at all. No. And this one, it's a different pace. They're in the one location the whole time. I think that's why people maybe don't like this film as much, because it's all set in sort of in the one town. And you're really only getting to see... what was Doc again? It was a blacksmith, wasn't it?
He was a blacksmith, yeah.
You're getting to see that sort of shed that he's in most of the time. But we do get to see them outside. They're celebrating, obviously, the festivities as well.
Yeah, I think it's a clock tower or something, the actual clock being finished. Yeah. Because they take photographs next to it.
Yeah, it's great, yeah.
Steve, before we get into that, though, briefly, I did say, I went off on a complete tangent talking about scores and whatnot. I says that, obviously, Marty is immature and Doc is this sort of wizened figure, but at some point in this movie, they actually swap roles. And Doc seems to lose all sort of grip on reality and time continuity that he's continually going on about. If you interact with people, if you do this and change things, it'll disrupt the time continuum.
Yeah.
Well, at some point, Marty starts becoming Doc and saying, "Look, what you doing, Doc? You're going out to socialise. What do you mean you're going to be seeing more of her?"
Yeah.
And Doc seems to swap with him, so I thought that was another little cool thing in this movie.
Yeah, Marty actually says, "Doc, you know, you've always said think with your head, you know, not with your heart, you know, so you tell me." You know, the scientist in you. There's also a bit where they change lines with the, "Oh, this is heavy."
Yeah.
You know, great Scott, you know.
Yeah, that was a great moment, Stephen, it was. Obviously, we do, as you did say, they go to the clock tower. He goes on the night out, he wants to meet and see more of Clara. And this really sets up the end of the movie, really, the duel with Buford and the continuing romance between Clara and Doc. Also, this party, I don't even know what it was. It was a sort of festival.
It was the clock tower. I think it was the opening. I can't remember.
It's also they're dancing. Buford moses in. There's a great scene as well for Strickland. He's the sheriff.
Yeah.
And his son's there. That's how you deal with them.
Yeah.
You don't give them an inch.
Remember
it's all about discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline. And again, that's a great little scene. You're bringing back returning characters. It should feel wrong, but it feels organic in the way it's implemented. And
you know, there's actually another interesting bit of trivia about Strickland as well, John. He was actually originally killed off. I think Buford shot him in the back or something like that. It was apparently, you know, storyboarded and stuff like that. That's why Strickland's not in the final shot when they're getting arrested. I think it's his deputy that arrested him. He was getting, I think they were getting arrested for robbing the Pine, I don't know, it was like the Pine City Stage Bank or something. I can't remember.
I remember that, yeah.
But that actual line was audio over the top of the original line for, you know, the murder of Sheriff Strickland.
Yeah, because one of his goons actually says something about there's a funny line when they're dancing, and obviously Marty has that interaction with Buford that sets up this duel. I think he calls him Yeller or something like that, and he comes back.
I always like what Marty says as well, John, when he throws the frisbee. And he says "lighten up, jerk." It's just the way he says it. He doesn't even know what the word means.
Mighty strong words for such a runt.
Yeah.
You got more to back it up than just a meat dish or something along those lines. What's the matter? You too yellow.
I think it's a pie fling.
A pie. Yeah, I couldn't recall that actual bit. But the fact he says frisbee, and I think it's Seamus is like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, it was right in front of him.
But again, it's a nice little sort of Easter egg in there with the frisbee remark, and it's kind of a.
He's using, you know, obviously modern terminology when he says far out, and I think it's Maggie that does say that, isn't it? It was right in front of him. It's little lines like that, you know.
It's brilliant, Stephen. Obviously, these goons, though, they say, I think it's Buford says, "We'll finish this tomorrow." And one of the goons says, "We're robbing the, as you did say, the Pine City Stage Bank or something like that tomorrow, or stage." And he says, "What about Monday? Are we doing anything then?" No, nothing. You can kill them on Monday. Again, it's just little lines. You're right. The dialogue in this is absolutely fantastic. But that's sort of pivotal scene, that sort of dance sequence. Because also she kicks him in the shin. He's trying to shoot Emmett in the back.
Do you know something else that annoyed me about Buford's gang? It wasn't the Biff gang. I don't know why. I think it was one of them was from Griff's gang, one of them was from Biff's gang, and one of them was from Needle's gang. That's what they used. It was the actors. I don't know why, you know, the original three weren't there. Maybe
it's just them suggesting, Bob Gale just suggesting that every one of these characters are arseholes throughout the whole time continuum, and they all congregate at some point together.
But we're not changing Leah Thompson.
Yeah, we're not changing. I think that's probably just budgetary stuff. We can bring her back in, people will see the face and say, there you go, she's back. And it'll save us, well, maybe not save her, maybe I'm doing Leah Thompson a disservice there, or Thompson as I'm calling her from now on. Maybe we're doing her a disservice. Maybe she did have a big paycheck, but it was Hollywood in the 80s, 90s, so probably not. But Stephen, obviously, at this point we do have the DeLorean getting wheeled onto the track, the beginning of the setting up of this sort of duel, and them trying to sneak off and avoid the duel and whatnot. We've got more interactions between Clara and Doc, and the romance is building. I think as we get to the night of the duel and try to get back to 85, I think he has to end it with her.
Yeah, he has to tell her that he's going away.
He tells her that he's from the future. She's like, "I'm not having that shit. You can just tell me you don't love me." Essentially, he's like, "But that's not true." He leaves a little broke. She goes to the pub or the saloon.
Yeah,
I love this, Stephen, because he orders a whiskey. I think the bartender
nurses it all night. Yeah,
nurses it all night.
It's great, isn't it? He's explaining to all the sort of the locals, the ones that frequent this saloon all the time, about automobiles and people running for fun.
But people don't walk, they do, but it's for recreational.
Yeah.
Recreational, why would they want to do that? But Stephen, it's the fact that he gets into it, and as I did say, the bartender seems to have this ongoing thing with him, this sort of relationship. I'm trying to find it. Emmett, what can I get for you? Your usual, no, I'm going to need something a little more stronger this time. I think he says Esperilla or something like that. I don't even know what that means. He says no whiskey. He's like, oh, you sure? You remember what happened in the 4th of July? Again, it shows you that they've been there for a while. He's built up a relationship with these guys, and they know this guy inside out, that he will nurse this whiskey all night long, he'll not drink it, and he's just an oddball. He'll tell long tales, or whatever you'd want to call them, about the future, and they don't take him serious. He's a sort of figure of fun. But obviously Marty wakes up, he's waiting to go away back to 1985. He sees Doc's gone, they go back, he goes back to the town. It's all hell's breaking loose, really. He's got Buford breathing down his neck, shouting out, he's forgetting the countdown, he's got his good friend going like that, 7.
Yeah.
And I think he's shouting out Yeller and whatnot. He's saying, I don't really feel up to this, can we forfeit it? What the hell does that mean? I think it means you win without fighting. That ain't fair, we're not getting to shoot anybody. There's just back and forth, great dialogue, great physical stuff going on. We've got Doc down in the whiskey.
You've also got one of the locals saying that Clint Eastwood's the biggest yellow belly in the West.
Yeah.
Try to say that to the man's face.
Blasphemous.
You know, Marty's reaction to that, you know, and what he says about Buford. He's an asshole.
He's an asshole, you know? That was great.
Amazing.
I don't have to do what this guy says or something along
He's
those lines.
finally there. The character's finally got there. He's developed again. You know, he's not letting things like that bother him now, because he understands the consequences. That obviously that will be confirmed, later on with the needles scene. But that's the beginning of it. You know, that's the beginning of the final development for Marty McFly. I
think it was Seamus that says to him, "You don't look. You could have just walked away. It doesn't really matter." And then I think Doc explains it to him as well.
Was it Seamus's brother or something?
Seamus, there was a Marty McFly.
Yeah, Martin.
I think he gets stabbed in the belly. I think Seamus said. Also, Doc let slip that he had an accident in the future, and he says, look, you've got your own future to live, it's your choices, you live and die by them. But this all seems to have it permeates into his skull, and he seems to realise that it's okay to be called chicken or yellow, it doesn't matter.
Taking that whiskey though, John. I love the way he falls through that table, and I think the glasses on the other side of the table shoot up into the air. It's like a seesaw effect, and Marty's like, this guy can't handle his liquor. I can't remember who says that. And Marty's like, how much do you have to drink? And he's like, one. What? One? Doc. It's the wake up juice as well, Tabasco sauce and all this other stuff.
Stephen, I'd try that. I love me some Tabasco sauce. Again, Doc's an absolute pussy when it comes to drink, but I've said that in my notes. The lightest, sort of most pussiest of guy when it comes to drinking the whole planet, perhaps, because he's just one whiskey, man. It's shocking. But obviously, Stephen, we get that moment of ingenuity from Marty to go out the side. It's almost like what the hell was that scene from Tombstone? I think that's where it was from. Can't recall. There's a famous sort of the choral, the OK choral. I don't know if that's
OK Corral, yeah.
OK Corral. It's that famous shootout. They try. I think it happens in an alleyway or something, and it gave me reminiscence of that. Where he's sneaking out the back. One of the guys tries to shoot him. I think he slithers in, bangs into something, and then he discovers, look, there's a sort of makeshift armoured plate, bulletproof vest that I can conjure up. What was your thoughts when you first watched this movie, Stephen? And they actually go out, or Marty goes out, calls him out, drops the gun and gets shot. Did you ever think that you had? They're showing you this right in front of you. It
confirmed what Buford was, an absolute animal of a man. No humanity or honour about him. Marty's, Clint is, laying on the line. I thought we could settle this like men. Drops his gun. You thought, wrong run, shoots him. And then he's so proud of himself. He's kind of doing that laughing and kind of dangling his gun about, and laughing at the crowd. As if, did you see that? How great am I? But just getting up to that, there's actually the foreshadowing of this scene actually in Back to the Future 2 with Biff in his hotel in the jacuzzi watching Clint Eastwood. Fistful of Dollars, I think it is. I'm not sure. I have to check that. It might be. I'm not sure.
Movie.
For a few dollars more, can't remember. It's one of them. But anyway, that was the foreshadowing, John.
Depends on what happened in the scene, Stephen. I may be able to help you.
The bulletproof vest.
God, I can't recall then.
Bulletproof vest.
That may be a few dollars.
So I can't remember, John. But we kind of got the clue in that film, in the second part. And it's great. But how many times does Buford take a knock to the head. First, it's the cast iron door of the oven right across the napper, and then Marty must punch him a good few times, about maybe 4 times in the face, and then his head goes right through the tombstone as well.
That was a great
and I'm
visual.
like, this guy would be unconscious by now if he's not dead, But then again, what does he fall into? The manure. It's the Jones, isn't it? That's the company, isn't it? Jones Manure Company. So again, it's repeating itself, John. It's that sequence again we're getting, and I'm falling into the manure.
Yeah, Stephen, the tannins are just absolutely synonymous with manure throughout this whole time. Like, I hate manure. But yeah, you're right. I love that sort of going through the actual gravestone, and he's checking it, and it's changed to his name from Emmett Brown, and then him actually crashing through the gravestone. It's almost like a visual metaphor of what the hell's happening in this. He's literally changing the timeline in front of us by throwing Buford through that. I mean, I love that sequence.
Yeah.
I love the ingenuity of him putting this plate in. They hammer it home in the actual sequence, but a scene prior to it, the shot. So I never really felt, even the first time I watched it, that he was truly dead. And you're not going to kill off your hero for some... He calls him a runt, but I'm going to call Buford a runt.
He's a doodied up egg sucker.
Yeah, doodied up egg sucker. Yes. That's them dancing around being able to swear.
Yeah.
I mean, he calls him an asshole at one point. That's probably the one sort of profanity.
It's better terminology than what we got in the second one. That future talk, bojo and stuff like that.
Yeah. Stephen, I remember.
Tranks and bojos.
Tranks and Bojo's back, incidentally. Shit.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Don't be a bojo.
Don't be a bojo, yes. Stephen, the finale in this movie, I've said it's surprisingly suspenseful, but incredibly well shot. That's something we've not really touched upon as of yet. The cinematography in this is pretty stupendous. I don't know who did the cinematography in this movie. I will find out when I pass it over to you, but the shots of Doc and Marty walking across the carriages on the train, beautiful. John, him on the hoverboard, and just there's a whole array of cool stuff
them getting onto that train as well. Now, it clearly wasn't Christopher Lloyd or Michael J. Fox performing those stunts, and I don't mean that it's clear to see. You wouldn't allow actors to do that kind of thing, certainly not in 1990, but the people they got to do that and the way it was shot, you want to talk about cinematography, it was absolutely seamless, because you never at any point went, that's clearly not Christopher Lloyd, that's clearly not Michael J. Fox. It was shot perfectly, and them getting onto that train, it was a bit of a job doing that, with the pacing of the horses and the pacing of the train, because the train at that point was going full pelt. The other thing you got to notice as well is that Doc's mask that he's got, the kind of bandana thing, it's actually his yellow shirt from the second one that he's used to cover up his face. So it's all a nice little bit of trivia in there.
Is this a robbery? No, it's a science project.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're getting out the train anyway, and we're taking it. We're confiscating this train. Stephen, what he says actually about them not actually doing the stunts, that probably shows you how much westerns, this little western theme we're going for, how that had progressed. Because about 40 years prior, with The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Eli Wallach actually nearly get decapitated doing a stunt with a train. So he was a millimetre away from being killed.
Jeez.
So clearly they'd progressed somewhat in that 30-40 year period.
Who would be a stuntman?
Yeah, exactly, Stephen. Well, clearly not the guy that was supposed to be doing Eli Wallach's stunt. He wasn't having it, so they actually put the poor actor in himself.
Yeah, he became a waiter the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Dean Cundy, Stephen, was the cinematographer. This man worked on, I mean, Apollo 13, Jurassic Park, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Escape from New York, Honey, We Shrunk the Kids. The list is endless, really. The Flintstones. It's actually a decent movie. I remember watching that. Is that John Goodman? I liked that movie.
Rick Moranis.
Yep, Rick Moranis, another name. A dirty name in these spheres. Stephen, he's a great cinematographer, so that really does explain it all, why this movie is so goddamn well shot. Moving on though, because I've got no much more to add about Dean Cundy. I've already forgot his name. That's never good. Performances and standouts, Stephen. What do you make about the performances in this movie? Who's your standout performer in this movie? I would probably short cord. I'd probably go for Thomas F. Wilson just for those lines.
It's not Flea anyway. I would say it's between Thomas F. Wilson and Christopher Lloyd for me, John. I think this is probably the most acting that Christopher Lloyd has had to do in this trilogy, and show an array of different emotions. He's not just playing the maniac scientist, inventor, like he did in the first two parts. And this one, he's really got to mellow down. He's got to interact, obviously, with his female counterpart, Clara. Mary Steenburgen, fine actor, absolutely amazing over the last 30 years or so. This was the first film I saw her in. She's obviously a great songwriter as well. She actually wrote a song for, I can't remember what the film was, John, but it was a song called Glasgow, and she actually liked our tweet because we made a comment on it. It's a beautiful song. I think she co-wrote it.
It was a great little movie. I can't recall either. The ginger girl going to... I can't recall. Yeah, but it's I would say it's between Thomas F. Wilson and Christopher Lloyd for me. Stephen, I'd agree. I'll take it back. Christopher Lloyd, it's got to be the great Christopher Lloyd. What he does with Emmett Brown in this movie is probably the best thing. It's his movie, as I said. That sort of romantic side plot. You're right, Mary Steinberg was really good as well as Clara Clayton. Michael J. Fox, he transcends the whole trilogy, really fantastic as Marty McFly. I couldn't imagine anyone else portraying the character. No. And also, as I did say, Thomas F. Wilson, just the lines alone, man, the lines this guy gets in this movie are worthy of inclusion in the conversation about best performers in the movie. But, Stephen, we also get a finale to the finale. Obviously, Marty comes across the bridge. That shot is fantastic, incidentally, where he goes to 1985 and the bridge, the sort of incomplete bridge, turns into the bridge.
It's overhead shot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Really, the transition of that.
Again.
Yeah, it's amazing, John. But I think it's like a visual sort of explanation for what Doc said previously about the fourth dimensional thing. Doc, as well, doesn't come back with him. No. You know, he's stuck in the past with Clara and a hoverboard. So... I don't know if he might be burned at a stake for being a witch if he's seen on that. I think he probably
reverse engineered the hoverboard technology to put into the train.
I thought of that, yeah.
This is what I thought, Stephen, when the train came back. It's hovering. I think he's reverse engineered. A man of his brilliance, Lord knows how many years to actually study and reverse engineer. We've seen what the guy can do with steampunk.
And then obviously the destruction of the DeLorean. Yeah. Devastating, but what a shot.
Yeah, fantastic, again, Dean Cundy. I'm just going to keep saying his name so I don't forget. Yes, it is a fantastic shot, Stephen. And it's heartbreaking. And he just gets out with a second to spare. He's panicked. He can't. All that he's been through, he's finally get back to his own timeline. And then he sees a train coming towards him. You'd be like, what have I done in a previous life to deserve all of this bad karma? Instant karma's going to get you. What didn't for Marty. He managed to get out. But as you did say, the DeLorean gets destroyed. He gets back to his home.
Gets Jennifer,
he gets Jennifer, but he also has that sort of moment with his brother, and he thinks he's a comedian again. He makes some joke. Who do you think you are? Clint Eastwood?
Yeah, Dave. Yeah,
and Biff's there again. I says in my notes, why is this aggressive rapist hanging around the McFly residence? What is going on with some of the worst goddamn tracksuits known to man?
In the first film, John, at the very end, if it wasn't for him, we would never have fallen in love.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not right. He's a rewriting history.
Yeah, exactly. And he's terrible. He's like,
a horrible person.
What you doing here, butthead? Oh, sorry, Marty. I didn't realise it was you with that outfit. Going for the cowboy look. I really like that hat, Marty. It's like, okay,
thank you.
Sycophantic fat shit.
But we finally get to see Marty in the 4x4. 3 films we've been waiting for this moment, and he's going up to pick up Jennifer. She obviously comes round, and then he can't really say it was all a dream. I think she's still got a copy of the Facts, You're Fired, from part 2. They meet up with obviously Flea and the gang, and this is when they're going to try and have a face-off with the 2 4x4 trucks, have a race, and this is what they were obviously hinting at in the second part with the Rolls Royce accident. Doc obviously heavily hinted that, Marty, you've got to make your own future, despite what the circumstances and the consequences will be. So the warnings were there, and Marty took that on board. He didn't square up to Buford in the way that he wanted to, because people were calling him a coward, so he was maturing between that point and obviously this point, and obviously he backs out of the race with needles.
That's Flea.
And that Rolls Royce comes out of nowhere as well at Hilldale, isn't it?
Yeah, Stephen, that's another bone of contention for me. Doc not telling him that he's going to be involved in an accident with a Rolls Royce. It's going to make him a paraplegic hanging upside down 30 years later. Jesus Christ, Doc. He warned you that you get shot with Libyans in the first movie. What are you doing?
Oh, you ungrateful git.
Show some gratitude and warn the guy that he's going to get paralysed, pretty much.
Yeah.
You're right, ungrateful shit. But obviously they do. They meet Doc again. He comes back in that big futuristic train. I've says it's the coolest looking effing train ever put to film. I know you disagree, Stephen.
I think it's naff. It actually looks like the Batmobile 1966. Yes. It's got those sort of designs on it. I think it's the wings that came out that look like the Batmobile. I don't like it, you know. This would have saved a lot of trouble. I know he only had 3 days or something like that to get the hell out of there before he was going to be shot, but it never really explains, and you don't have to take it seriously. They have to wrap this thing up, you know, and give it a happy ending and stuff like that. Exactly. I thought it would have been pretty dark and pretty cool if perhaps Doc just wrote Marty a letter and we get some sort of sequences where we see Doc living out the rest of his days in the past with Clara and the kids, whatever they were called. Can't remember. I can't remember what they're called. Well, not that important.
And one of them's a little dodgy paedophile as well, Stephen.
He does a signal to Jennifer, doesn't he? With his hand, he's got giving it all that. Yeah. You know?
Then he points to his groin. It's like, you're like 7 years old.
A lot of people have pointed that out. I don't know what that was.
You little nonce. I don't know which one it was. Little blonde haired one. You little weirdo. Probably about my age now, so I can say that.
Yeah.
You little nonce.
Notice Jennifer was backing away anyway.
Yeah, I would be backing his way as well, Steve. But look, you're right. That is just a sort of visual clue, or not clue, just a visual representation that everything has ended well for Doc. He has Clara, he has a family, he has science.
Yeah.
He's still an ingenious inventor. He's created an amazing train. Some would say it's naff. I thought it was okay. I mean, it's better than a DeLorean, let's put it that way. I mean, what is it? Well, I take that back immediately. No, it's not better than a DeLorean. But again, it's just showing that everything's ended well for Doc. Everything's ended well for Marty. And this is why this is probably a better movie than some would give it credit for, or give it credit for, if we're not going to fling in some slang. And I've done it again. Flung. It wraps up these two characters, these two primary characters, great friends, arcs, so well. It closes the door for Marty and getting back and forth from the future, and it leaves the door open for the more responsible Doc. And I just think that's a beautiful end to the movie. I really enjoyed the movie, Stephen. Final thoughts on it, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was beautifully shot, it was really slick, it was on a technical level, it was fantastic. Costume design, production design, the acting was great, the arcs were fantastic, and the conclusion was really fitting. It was a happy end. Do not go back, Stephen. I've said in my notes, at some point, did you think it was right to call it a halt after 3?
Yeah.
Do not ever go back to Back to the Future and touch it, Bob Gale or
Zemeckis.
Zemeckis.
At the age of 14, I didn't want a part 4. There was nowhere else to take the story.
We've seen what they've done with Star Wars. It's wrong.
Exactly. And listen, just to sum up the film, I can only repeat what you said. You know, it's a fitting end to probably a perfect trilogy for me.
Yeah.
And it's second only to probably Star Wars, the original trilogy.
Yeah, Stephen, I can't disagree with that. But look, that is going to round up our review. We are running out of time very, very quickly here. 30 seconds to wrap this up. Wow. If you have anything to say about Back to the Future as a whole, the trilogy, about Back to the Future Part 3, you can comment below. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think it's good, shite and different? If you think it's shite, bury your head in a pile of manure like Buford and Biff and Griff probably before them. If you've got anything to say at all, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And if you do, then you will see us tomorrow for our review of Guy Ritchie's magnificent Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.